She thought the dog was being obsessive. She thought maybe he needed more exercise. She did not think he was reading a diagnosis. Renata Flores had a system: 2 kids under 3, a husband who traveled 4 days a week, a freelance accounting job she managed between naps and bedtimes. She ran a tight house because a tight house was the only kind that didn't collapse. She knew her children. She knew her dog. She was, in her own words, someone who paid close attention, which is why it bothers her still that she almost missed it. Kodiak was a 3-year-old Siberian Husky, gray and white, 58 pounds, with a vocal personality common to his breed and an ability to communicate dissatisfaction through sustained eye contact that his entire family found both useful and unnerving. He had been the family dog since before either child arrived, and had accepted both arrivals with the composure of an animal who had already mentally processed the change before anyone else had. Renata's youngest, Sasha, was 5 months old. She was not sick. She was not running a fever. She was, by every observable measure, a healthy, growing, normally developing infant. She cried at appropriate times, ate at appropriate intervals, slept in the patterns Renata had carefully established over weeks of disciplined routine. There was nothing wrong with Sasha, except Kodiak had decided there was something wrong with Sasha. It started on a Thursday. Renata was nursing Sasha on the couch in the evening, and Kodiak came from the other room, walked directly to them, pressed his nose to Sasha's face, specifically to the baby's mouth, and inhaled for 5 full seconds. Renata pulled him back gently. He returned. She moved to the rocking chair. He followed and pressed his nose to the baby again. She told her husband on the phone that night, "Kodiak is being weird." He said dogs were weird. She agreed and went to sleep. Friday morning, same behavior. Friday evening, same behavior. Saturday, Kodiak began doing it while Sasha napped, pressing his nose to her face through the pack-and-play mesh, that long, slow, deliberate inhale, holding position. Renata watched him on the monitor. She called her sister. Her sister said, "That's separation anxiety. He's insecure around the babies." Renata thought this was plausible. Kodiak went to his dog bed in the laundry room for the weekend nap times. He scratched at the door. He scratched. He stopped. He started again. By Tuesday evening, 7 days into the behavior, Kodiak had performed this nose-to-mouth inhale so many times that Renata had begun counting them. 31 times across 7 days. Always Sasha, never the older child. Always the mouth. Always the same slow, deliberate breath reading. Renata told her husband, "I don't understand what he's doing. It's the same spot, every time." Her husband, who worked in systems engineering, said, "If something keeps returning to the same data point, there's probably something at that data point." Renata looked at Sasha. Her daughter was lying in the bouncy seat making her normal sounds, not in distress, not crying more than usual, not running a temperature that the thermometer could detect, but she had been slightly fussier the past 4 days, slightly harder to settle, eating a little less. Renata had filed these as normal fluctuation. She called the pediatric nurse line. "If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one." The nurse asked screening questions. When she got to urine, color, smell, frequency of wet diapers, Renata stopped. She thought back. Sasha's diapers had been slightly less wet the past 3 days. The smell had been different. She had noticed it and not noticed it at the same time. The nurse said, "Bring her in the morning." The urine culture came back within 48 hours. Sasha had a urinary tract infection, UTI in infancy, which presents with almost no visible symptoms, no fever necessarily, no rash, just slight fussiness, slight decrease in feeding, slightly different urine odor. It can progress to kidney infection, then to sepsis in infants, within days without ever producing the obvious symptoms parents are taught to recognize. Dr. Priya Naidu, pediatrician, 7 years of practice, told Renata that UTI in infants was one of the most commonly missed diagnoses because the presentation is so non-specific. "You would never know unless you tested," she said. "How did you know to come in?" Renata told her about the 31 times. Dr. Naidu did not look surprised. She said she had read the research on canine detection of bacterial infection. Uropathogens, the bacteria that cause UTIs, release volatile organic compounds into the body's fluid systems, including respiratory output. The compounds are detectable in breath at concentrations that build as the infection progresses. A dog operating at hundreds of times human olfactory sensitivity would read the change in a breath long before any clinical symptom became externally visible. Dr. Naidu said, "Your dog has been running a urine culture for a week. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." Sasha was treated with antibiotics. She cleared the infection in 10 days. She never ran a fever. She never became visibly unwell. She had been carrying a bacterial load that was building toward complications, and the only thing in the house that had detected it was a husky who pressed his nose to her mouth 31 times across 7 days and scratched at a door because no one would listen. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Renata brought Kodiak out of the laundry room the morning Sasha came home from her follow-up appointment cleared. He walked into the living room, approached the bouncy seat, pressed his nose to Sasha's face, held it for 3 seconds, and then walked to his dog bed and lay down. He didn't go back to the baby that day. He didn't go back that week. Whatever he had been reading for 7 days, he was no longer reading it. The signal had cleared. He was done. Renata sat beside his bed that evening and put her hand on him. She thought about the laundry room door. She thought about 31 times. Kodiak put his chin on her knee and exhaled once. What does your dog return to that you've never been able to explain? Tell us below.